We're back. Thank you for joining us. This is the commercial opportunities session of the GeoPose Summit hybrid event. We hope that everyone who is here still has the interest in where commercial companies can take this, because this is really where we get our requirements, right? This is really where the rubber meets the road. So with that, I'd like to welcome Pedro Cruz from MeshMap.
Thank you so much, Christine. So, Christine was asking me when I arrived here. This is my first time in Boulder. I'm from Puerto Rico. And she asked me, why are you here? And I got really existential for 1 second. And I was like wondering, well, to be honest, it's the community aspect of it. It's looking how we can join this open group. So before I get started on my presentation, want to tell why exactly am I here? I'm a developer. Been developing since I was 11 years old, fell in love with augmented and virtual reality when Palmer Luckey started Oculus. And we're the same age. So I was like, okay, well, maybe I should make a startup. So fast forward, to nowadays, I, a few years ago, was trying to make an augmented reality walking tour in Puerto Rico. I was mesmerized with the fact that we could make murals and street art come to life. I had the idea of going up to a statue and talking to it just to learn its history. So the problem is that the commercial applications and developer tools that were readily available back then and still now, they're walled gardens, as we know. So it was tough because I scanned many places with these tools, and it took months and even years to even get my scans accepted onto their map. So Ryan and my other co-founder, Matt, we joined a hackathon, won first place in the gaming category, and then that's where MeshMap came alive, right? Our whole goal was to make this open implementation of an AR cloud. So I'm looking online after we won the hackathon, how can we make this open AR cloud, asking ChatGPT. And then we figured out that it is very hard to do this. So I first thank you for everyone's work in this area. I'm going to explain what is MeshMap, what are we trying to do, what have we done so far with GeoPose, and vision for commercial opportunities. So just to give you a visual of what we're doing, we're all about games right now. This is what we did last year. So imagine you're in Union Square Park, Central Park, somewhere in New York, and you put on a Magically headset, and you're able to play games.
Keep going, everything's okay.
Everything's okay? So this was our first Halloween experience. I'm actually, right after this conference, going to New York to do our second one, rain permitting. So the whole goal was to make this walking tour fun, interactive. You're collecting candy as you go. And it was a lot of fun to build. I'm going to pause it there. If you want to see more about it, feel free to go to our YouTube and our website. But essentially, the main challenges is that, like I mentioned, VPS is still a relatively new technology. And we noticed when we would use VPS anyways, it was very jittery. We actually figured out that if we do a one-shot localization where we put a marker on the ground, we look at that marker, and then we localize this once, the slam on the Magic Leap headset was good enough for us to walk all around the park. So we even didn't need VPS because of that. So we just went off that for our experiences. And our vision towards the future is to create an open spatial index where creators can pin digital objects in the world, make them persistent, and this is what GeoPose enables essentially. So we're creating this tech stack where you have high resolution 3D maps. We are integrating spatial anchors and a state management system that we're going to be implementing some sort of blockchain. We're looking into public blockchains like Solana. Maybe there's some other implementations that can be more readily distributed. So when we started scanning, we thought we could scan with mobile only. And we quickly realized how difficult it is to use your phone to be able to map large spaces like parks. So I think mobile is great for smaller areas, maybe like if you want to do an experience at a statue, or you're inside a museum, you want to focus on a very small location, a garden, that works. But our whole goal was to use these maps in Unity and then be able to build games with them with the Magic Leap headset specifically. We quickly realized it would take over 30 minutes to be able to scan something with where we use a lot of Polycam. There's other applications as well that do this, but we noticed that it would take us a long time to scan. So we went on the other side of the spectrum and looked into server grade scanners like the Leica BLK2Go, and that was great, but it's a lot more expensive and it's not really accessible to the larger public, of course. And since we want to create an open tech stack, we actually very recently started building our own scanner. So the reason is that there are commercial scanners out there. A lot of them use the same LiDAR device, right? The MID-360, and it's a great entry-level LiDAR device. The challenge is that, again, a lot of the companies that offer it in their scanners, the handheld SLAM, are proprietary. So we're actually, we just recently hired a robotics engineer. We're building our own scanner. And the goal is to make this open spec to be able to scan large sites easily. So our platform, which we've built throughout the past few months, consists of the ability of uploading scans. So this is a scan from Puerto Rico near Atlantic University, which is the main gaming development university. Oh, here, just like my alarm every morning, snooze right there. Yeah, so we allow people to upload their scans and share them. So when you go to our website, to our application, you're able to upload a scan. You can also look at the scans. We are currently in beta. We're looking for people to try our platform out and our systems. So this is our early beta to be able to share these scans. And our vision, like I mentioned, is that as VPS matures, we actually think that a really good way, an intermediate way until we get a really good open VPS implementation, is to do multiple methods of localization, not just using images, but using actually ARKit world anchors, the image markers, Magic Leap spaces, custom locations by Snap, is to use their localization methods, because we notice that it's a lot faster in the Magic Leap, for example, to be able to use their systems that are fine-tuned with their cameras. So we want to actually offer multiple ways where devices can localize. So that's what we're doing currently for anchors and localization. So our current implementation, which we launched very recently, essentially is a content API. It uses your phone where you can pin objects, and then you're able to upload that to our map. Then we're currently testing on the Snap Spectacles, which is an awesome device because it has GPS compared to a Quest or to a Magic Leap, HoloLens. It has GPS integrated. So right now we're in beta, and we see a lot of opportunities for applications in gaming. That's what we're all about. So like I mentioned, this was last year what we did, where we mapped multiple parks in New York, in Puerto Rico, soon Japan, and more. And the goals that we see, or the opportunities that we see for developers are mostly in location-based entertainment. So if you're outdoor, for example, you can have an immersive art walk. You can have history walking tours, which for me, I hated history growing up. I was more of a geek. I would get A's in science and math, but then, history and Spanish class and English, I wouldn't do so well. But imagine if we could give the opportunity for students to learn, history by going to these sites. So for example, in Puerto Rico, we have one of the oldest forts in the world, and it's in Old San Juan. Imagine if you could see how the Dutch came in and tried to seize Puerto Rico, and actually succeeded for 30 days. And reliving history through augmented reality is one of my favorite use cases. So we have AR games, scavenger hunts, geocaching adventures, music as well. I think that's a really great use case. Still have to figure out how we're going to localize at night, but hey, that's another problem. For indoor experience as well, we see opportunities for museum and gallery tours, escape rooms, puzzle adventures, right? So yeah, right now we're focusing on offering these opportunities in-house, but we're also on our way to offer this as an SDK for developers. So we're offering a Unity API, like I mentioned, a open hardware scanner that people can use to be able to produce high resolution scans. And then as we get the AR glasses that we all envision, I was joking, I think with George, it's always like 3 years away is when we're gonna get augmented reality glasses. I honestly think we're actually 3 years away from getting mass market glasses, but hey, we'll see. So yeah, that's basically what I wanted to present. We're on test flight right now. So if you want to test out our current GeoPose implementation, you can do so. It's on iPhone right now and in beta, so we're a lot open to feedback. What you'll do is you'll be able to press this plus button, go to an area, ideally outside. I think it works better outside, but you can try it indoors. You're able to upload images, 3D objects, video, and also audio as well. So after that, it's going to appear on the map. And then, yeah, you're able to share it with other people who have iPhones. Like I said, it's in beta, so it's going to be heavily in development. Don't publish anything there. You don't want people to see. But yeah, we're really happy to start this implementation with GeoPose and look forward to the future. Thank you.
I think we're going to take a few questions and discuss, if that's okay with everybody here. And those, could you monitor what's happening on the Zoom in case there are people who are
Sure.
hybrid, who are attending remotely, who might have questions that they want to bring forward. So thank you. I'm going to try to recap what I heard you say in my own words. So you discovered a need based on pain. You identified use cases that appeal to you and for which you have gets you up in the morning. And so you want to be agnostic. You wanted to be agnostic as far as the scanning technology, but you're going to introduce your own platform too, in addition to the scan. So scanning is one piece of the puzzle. And then there's authoring, which that's, I think you know what I'm talking about, all the pipeline to attach the assets to the real world and so forth. And then there's the delivery of the experience at the end, whatever the glasses or smartphone. Let me just summarize by saying, so far what I'm hearing is you're creating your own technology silo, though you want to be part of an open community. So help me, merge those two ideas more clearly.
For sure. I think it makes a lot of sense, the concern, right? I think the goal is to create something that's interoperable. We want to be able to be an implementation of these open standards, just like GLTF, just like JPEG and PNG. These are formats that are interoperable. So the goal of the camera, for example, is to make it completely open source, open hardware, have it accessible for other people instead of having proprietary, companies make their own. And as well for the platform, a lot of developers find it hard to roll this out on their own. So we want to make it easy for them, essentially. So we're building, our custom games, to stay alive as a company, but we're building upon these open standards and in an open way so we can make it interoperable.
This is Chris Little. My comment is, as an outsider from the geospatial industry, well, I was 20 years ago, is that as always I think it's a problem with the geospatial industry, because if you think where they were a long time ago, people did special surveys at great expense and sold it to the sponsoring customer, or they had one or two observations of the ocean depth, and they sold it at great price to the oil industry. So there's all this tradition. And I remember earlier this year, I went to a geospatial conference in London, and the OGC were just reviewing LAS 1.4 of the LiDAR cloud spec, right? And so I was asked and bumped into quite a lot of stalls who were in the business of doing LiDAR scanning. And I asked them about, do you use the LAS spec? They'd never heard of it. They weren't interested. I said, aren't you interested in interoperability? No, we've done a scan for the customer, and once we've been paid, we delete it. They weren't interested. So I think there is a real issue of geospatial being very siloed and tied into its back tradition. So I think you're pioneering. I hope it succeeds.
I think we haven't left the subject of interoperability and interoperable with what, but here's Matt.
How are you going about your spatial indexing?
Yeah, we're currently developing that right now. So we believe that public blockchains like Solana, for example, could be a great place to put it. I think that we need, to be honest, like a way where if another company decides to roll out their own solution, that they can communicate. So I don't have the answer to that, but for spatial indexing, specifically on objects, right, we're going to be using GeoPose specifically. For scans, right, we're still trying to figure out what is the best format. We've used 3D tiles, and we're still trying to figure out what is the best approach. So I'm open to ideas.
Yeah, we should probably talk offline.
Yes.
Yeah.
Getting back, definition of interoperability, definition of indexing, right? What do we mean by those things? So just one last question about interoperability. Suppose somebody used a third party, somebody else's entire system to author experiences that are games that are in the same location where you had already scanned. Could they open those experiences with your client application? That is an example of interoperability. Or if a developer used your entire platform and they created something and they published it on, whatever cloud, they could use a Magic Leap or someone else's client to open. That's another type of, or like what Ali's shown many times, where you have multiple options, because I think that there are going to be companies that specialize in indoor scanning, others that do night scanning or day scanning or rainbow scanning. I don't care. And so you're going to have, well, we will not get that ecosystem unless there's interoperability at some level. Yeah, that's my definition of interoperability. That wasn't a question, sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I mean, one thing to sort of keep in mind is there's not interoperable or not interoperable. I mean, there's scope of interoperability, but there's also level. At what level of the added value is interoperability supported? Now, if you have a company, there's some level about which you're a unique you're a unique value, and you're not interoperating with that. But have you thought about what level you can achieve, that what level you'd like to achieve. You know, there's the raw data, there's, you know, getting up to the mesh, getting up to game rules. Is there some thinking about what level you think makes sense for creating a bigger ecosystem and still having a company?
Yeah, great question. So I see interoperability mostly for like WebXR compatible assets. If you want to run a Unity game, how are you going to interoperate that with the Magic Leap Quests and others? You can't. So I think until we can run hardcore games on WebXR, it's going to be very tough to reach full interoperability. Where I see it is stuff like our application right now. You're able to upload, GeoTF assets, images, video, and audio. That can interoperate.
So you're looking at interoperability at the level of common platforms that you find useful.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions for Pedro before we continue? I see none, and there's none in the chat for Zoom. Thank you for coming. You're part of our community.
Thank you, Christine, and everyone for inviting us. Been part of OpenAR Cloud community for a few years now. Was always admiring the work the community was doing. Obviously, it's all of our vision and dreams to bring, AR Cloud to the real world. Introducing myself, so I've been working in the computer vision and in the AR SDK space for around 9 years now. With my previous companies building proprietary SLAM, mapping products, SDKs along the line. Last year, we have been working on VPS for some time now, and while working on VPS, we realized some of the issues with existing vendors, not particularly issues, but things we wanted to do different. And that's where earlier last year, 2024, we decided to start this new venture called Multiset, where we are building a scan agnostic VPS. And recently we added a API support with the GeoPose format, and we'll be bringing a complete support to GeoPose in coming weeks. I'll start now about Multiset what I'll be covering in this whole slide in a bit. So first I'll be walking over how Multiset VPS is different and what we are trying to do different to support an interportable VPS out there and just work with all these open standards out there, not just GeoPose, but along with GeoPose, if there are any, we are trying to follow other standards like E57, GLBs, and on all the industry standards that are out there. So first of all, we have a scan agnostic pipeline. I'll just come to it in a bit. I'll then cover how we are cross-platform and headless, which means we don't push any sort of authoring. We build, we give our VPS completely accessible through API. So any third-party authoring tool could connect with our VPS and manage the authoring. And then obviously we support, recently we started supporting GeoPose response in our standard VPS API calls, and we also support E57 file, which is a scan data file, which is vendor neutral, used to store point clouds and panoramas files coming out of this professional scanners. So this diagrams typically sums up a multi-set VPS at a glance. So on the top, what you will see is all the scanners that we support today with our platform, which is in production. So you could bring in any 3D scan coming out of Matterport, Navis, Leica, XGrid of the world, or if you have an iPhone, we have an iPhone app which runs on all the iPhones with LiDAR or iPads. But primarily the idea is to allow the community or allow enterprises who we typically targeted on to bring their own scan. So typically the enterprises that we work with have already scanning vendors for their own digital twin ecosystem. So they would have done 3D scan for let's say a digital twin for visualization or for some other purpose. So we try to get close to them and open VPS into their existing data layer instead of asking them to remap or rescan using our system. We try to get into their ecosystem and support VPS and AR overlays. Um, Once you have the scan, we have a pipeline that could ingest them and convert them into a coordinate system. We offer a superior VPS that could work in indoors, outdoors, multi-floor, low light environments. We were recently benchmarked in one of the ADI report areas. Again, amazing organization. They did a recent VPS study involving us and other vendors in this space, and we are really happy to see the results coming out of it. And we technically ranking higher in a lot of parameters. So I mean, if someone interested in detailed VPS study, definitely I'll recommend the recent area report on VPS. Moving forward on the localization support. So we support localization across variety of devices, not restricting to the just XR devices, but devices beyond XR. So today we support even we have VPS running in generic cameras through ESP32 sensors, or basically any device that could give a camera image could work with our system. So you can think of our VPS not like completely focused on XR, but generally it could work on applications beyond XR. Some of the platforms that we support are in the bottom of this image. Yeah, so this a particular slide covers up another things in terms of how we try to become interpretable is about the data. When we work with enterprises, one key requirement is always like how is the data stored, where is the data stored, what are you doing with my scan data, and we don't want it like and this was one of the major problem that we wanted to solve for enterprises when working with 3D data in general. So with our VPS, customers can choose how they want to deploy the VPS itself. So they can run the VPS on their device completely offline, or they can, if they already have a private cloud, like at their own instance of AWS or Azure, they could download our VPS as binaries and deploy the VPS into their own instances. So the key question about the data, how the data goes, so they could have complete control over the data, and this and the standards are still followed. Like they can still use their E57 file and still expect a GeoPose response. We also have object tracking in the same SDK, which is again a key requirement for XR specifically when you want to overlay lockstep instructions on specific objects. Our SDK out of the box supports objects, which for that we just work with GLBs of file format. So if you have a GLB scan of a 3D object, it could be a machinery, it could be a coffee machine, literally. You could give it to our APIs and it converts that into a coordinate system that you could anchor upon. I'll just play a quick demo of a recent VPS implementation in an airport at Lake Charles Airport, regional airport in Texas. Let me know if my screen is visible. Yeah, so this was done with our partners at Gigantic. So we implemented VPS and XR navigation at this airport. Again, the key here was airports are really sensitive environment. So with multi-site, we were able to run this experience locally without, let's say, airport losing their sensitive data to a third party on the cloud. So they were able to host the maps on their own server, and all the content along is managed by our partners. Again, we don't do the authoring, so we have authoring partners. I mean, this was done out of the box from Unity, but we have partners like Zepar and many more studios who could use our APIs and decide the content. So we don't restrict on content or the workflows. I'll just fast forward this. Is typical XR experience showing localization, precise localization in an airport kind of environment, and then overlaying with passenger information. Some of the cool. We wanted to create a museum out there with all the history, and also at the same time giving you your where are your gates, your boarding information, and all the information that you need about the airport before you board. Yeah, moving back to the slides. Now coming specifically for the GeoPose implementation. So we recently supported the GeoPose response format in our localization API. So what does that mean is now developers can choose whether they want the localization response to work in local coordinate system or the global coordinate system uh, based on their application needs. So we see some applications sticking to local coordinate system, but we really also think that for actual interpretable experiences, a need of a global coordinate system standard is a must. And that's why a few weeks ago, we supported the GeoPose standard response in our APIs. So how does this typically work is any developer who comes to our platform can upload their existing scan. They can choose the scan provider, whether it's Matterport, Leica, Navis. As mentioned, we support the E50 file, but on top of that, we also support additional vendor-specific files as well. In case Matterport has certain vendor-specific files, we support that too. Once they upload the scan, the processing takes typically an hour. And once they finish up the scan, the maps become active, and then what they could do is just upload the geo coordinates. This is the process where you align a local coordinate system with the global coordinates. This is a one-time process. A lot of time you get these values from your scanners if they really have high quality GPS and sensors installed. But this is one step for to enable GeoPose. And once you have enabled GeoPose in our API request, this is what typically developers use. So they see the local coordinates for that particular VPS call, like the relative coordinate response of the given image, as well as the global GeoPose coordinates with latitude, longitude, as well as the rotation mentioned in ENU YF format. So yeah, so developers can really choose whether they want to stick to local or convert to global in every API call. Our platform is live. We also have an amazing free tier for developers who want to explore the platform prior to getting on a paid plan. So we have the developer platform at developer.multiset.ai. If you scan this, you will be directed to the developer platform. We also have a mapping app in case you don't have a professional scanner and you want to try something out there. You could download our app, Multiset app, from the App Store for all LiDAR-based phones and scan any environment that could be converted into VPS, and you could try out our GeoPose response. Even it's available live today. Yeah, I'll open the floor for the questions.
Thank you, Nick. We are also waiting to hear from you, Nick, when you're gonna fully get the protocol compliant with the protocol so that we can actually start utilizing your VPS too.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
what Ali is saying is, you may not have seen it in detail this morning, but in the prior session, we were showing the open spatial computing GeoPose protocol, and it's maybe you can bring that up and open those slides because they went by really, really fast earlier today. So what this, the whole stack of the open spatial computing platform is to broker different resources from different sources, depending on what you need. With what you need being defined as where you are to a high degree, and the open spatial computing platform discovery service is something that allows you to register your resources, your assets, or whatever into a directory, and then anything that is OSCP compliant can query that register. So it's very interesting to see. I think that's a next step for both of your companies that would be logical to make sure that any compliant tool could request and receive materials based on their GeoPose. So there was one of the slides that showed up a couple of times was it was blue with a white background with blue back and forth. It's a flow diagram that shows when in the OSCP you're requesting different resources. So is that getting closer to my yapping along? And
Downloading.
okay.
So
So I'm not saying it's the only game in town, but it is an attempt for us to support the publication of assets that are queryable based on location. In the last 2 months, I guess I would say, a very important piece that is being added to this stack is the spatial content discovery service. You see it down on the right-hand side near the bottom. So, yeah, could you share this? Yeah, thank you. So this spatial discovery service is a piece that builds on the other pieces. And one of the architects of the Open Spatial Computing Platform has recently developed something that he calls Open Spatial DDS, right. So that's based on the OMG distributed data service architecture. And we're very happy that the folks at OMG, specifically DDS people, are paying a lot of attention to that spatial DDS proposal. So I guess one of the upshots, and you've heard it mentioned several times today, is that while OGC is very important to people who have geospatial expertise, it's not the only standard that's needed. It's not the only standard that will be in use for any of these experiences, whether they're augmented reality or navigation or any of the above. Sorry.
Yeah. So yeah,
here.
with multiset, I mean, we really give our VPS open to developers for content authoring. So in terms of following standards for content delivery, I think that will be our partners, whoever is using our VPS service on top of GeoPose implementation. I think this is a whole connected world where, let's say, we really focus and we really want to focus on visual positioning as a service and eventually getting that completely compliant with GeoPose, not just in the response, but I think Ali and I had a discussion earlier this month about the full standard for the GeoPose. That's definitely in our roadmap and will be coming in next few weeks. But as I mentioned, like we are one part of the puzzle. We don't do the authoring, we don't do the deployment. What we do is just the one piece, but we want to do that best in the world.
Yeah, did I hear you? Couple of weeks? That's great. Did I hear you right?
I said I will try. I said few weeks, but
Yeah, okay, that works too. Yeah, Nick, it was a great conversation we had. So let's continue that. If you have any questions for when you're trying to implement this, please let us know.
I think that's one of the things about this summit. One of our goals is to expose developer concerns, or at least bottlenecks and headaches, like Rob Smith showed us during the implementation and testing session earlier today. There's plenty of landmines there that we haven't solved, but that that do need to be addressed in different ways. So does anybody else have any comments, questions for Nick or for Pedro?
It's a very vague thought that just sort of popped into my mind, so it may not be a coherent question. But having been involved with on the fringes of AR with you, Christine, for what, 10 years since we're in Redlands, and I've seen a lot of progress, as epitomized by the screen. But actually, are you getting left behind? Is the development that's going on in the IT world going ahead faster than the AR developments? Are you leading edge or trailing edge, or in the middle? Is that a fair question?
I think something that Pedro said, it's always 3 years out. I think George was saying it too.
yeah, no, I think AR is really pushing the boundaries of innovation there. I mean, with our VPS, I mean, we are trying to solve some of the hardest technical issues that are coming with VPS and that were there with the VPS for last 10 years. Like some of the issues that we're trying to solve is how do we make a VPS that works in with the same level of accuracy in day and night. And we have been seeing some great success there. We have been trying to work on a VPS that perform consistently in indoors and outdoors. And these are really very as you know, very deep technical issues that not just us, but even let's say self-driving cars are trying to solve similar level of technical issues with some sort of research what it requires here. So I think to make the AR happen and to make the AR cloud happen, there's a lot of innovation required, and I see a lot of players doing it in parallel.
Not to be too waggish, but I think where the amazing progress has happened has been in fantasy. Reality remains hard.
I want to say that an example of progress that I think this session kind of showcases is that providers are now targeting specific audiences, specific use cases. Before it was, all you had was a big bat and you just tried to hit everything and see what stuck. When you swung it, what did you hit? And that was a very hit and miss approach. And whereas now I at least see more specialization than we had, a decade ago or 2 decades ago. So more specialization is a good thing because you better understand what the requirements of those customers are and can better meet them. And then I thought it was interesting, Nick, you're being very clear in your presentation about where you sit in that value chain and not trying to go above it or too far below it. So I think that's a sign also of a maturity of an ecosystem, is you start to see the blocks that separate and are connecting, hopefully over time, but they are more clear blocks than they were before. As far as one of the questions that has often come up is whether AI is dwarfing ARs. Are we irrelevant now because of all the attention on AI? And I think some years ago, people pointed out that AR can be an interface, the human interface, onto some of the content that AI brings out. But also what I see to be exciting personally is just the amount of machine learning we already used to do now is a lot better. It's so much improved. We're not so concerned with large language models, so we're not very much impacted by the LLM wave. We can point to some specific things where we are, but I think the real impact of that AI, whatever it is, I don't want to call it a bubble, but the AI energy, the investments in AI is going to come when it's spatial, and we have programs and models that describe the real world and describe it reliably. And that's some of what a VPS does, is describing the real world in a machine readable way so that machines can then make generalizations and patterns and have other intelligent contributions. I think we've kind of moved perhaps from the commercial opportunities session into the discussion sessions. So I'm going to close the commercial opportunities session in a formal manner, and so that our recording can conclude. Thank you very much to our presenters. Thank you to our participants for your questions and contributions.